Welcome back to another week of Families in an Electronic World. I'm pretty hopeful that this time I have the right discussion item up. I apologize for putting the wrong one up again. This is the second time this semester, so hopefully that'll be the last time I do it. I'm sure this week is right. I've already posted it and I've double checked it, so hopefully no more mistakes. But as you know, this discussion this next week is going to be about electronic media and how that impacts couple relationships on kind of an everyday basis. And, how do we stay in touch using texting and emails and social media and all those sorts of things, and how are our relationships impacted from everything from kind of the mundane everyday connection to our intimate relationships. I know some of you, maybe hopefully most of you or all of you, have seen the Fun2Wear videos by now, and I think that'll generate some good discussion about, okay, so how far can we go in terms of staying connected with each other on the internet? The week following that, and so the readings and the video that I'm about to tell you about in a couple of minutes here, we're going to continue our discussion about couple relationships, but we're going to go into a new dimension, another dimension, and that's the area of infidelity. Infidelity has been around for a long time. It's been around for probably as long as people have been around. And call it cheating, call it extramarital affairs, whatever you want, whatever name you want to put to it. It has to do with being involved in a relationship outside your primary relationship, usually something that is done in a secret sort of way. And of course it has major ramifications for couple relationships. The reason we're going to be talking about it in this class is because digital media really has changed the face of infidelity and raised a lot of questions about, well, what do we mean by infidelity? Because there are just many, many opportunities, increased number of opportunities than in the past, just because we have so many opportunities to connect with people at our fingertips. So whether it's going into a chat room that has a sexualized theme, or looking up somebody on Facebook that you knew years ago and kind of reconnecting in an emotional way with that person, there are a lot of ways in which people can use the internet to connect with somebody who's not in their primary relationship. And this raises, of course, some significant issues for couples, not the least of which is, what do we mean by online infidelity? What constitutes infidelity? What sort of relationship that may be occurring online crosses the line into infidelity? It's a good question, and it's one that partners sometimes, maybe often, don't agree on. So let me give you a situation here just to kind of get you thinking about this, and then we'll certainly continue the discussion when that week comes. You may remember Shelly Turkle, who we had a TED Talk with the very first week, and she wrote a book called Alone Together, and in this book she describes a guy who is involved in a game called Second Life. Second Life is, in Second Life you develop an avatar, and you sort of have this avatar live another life that may be very different from the one that you're living. And so the guy that she describes in this book is married, not necessarily happily, but he's married and he has children. In fact, when she describes him, he's at the park playing with his kid, but he's also on his cell phone participating in Second Life. And he has an avatar that is having a relationship, an ongoing romantic kind of relationship, with somebody else's avatar. So the question is, well, does that constitute online infidelity? If his avatar is having a relationship with somebody else's avatar and neither one knows who's on the other end of the line? Interesting question. And I think a lot of couples ask questions about, well, what is it that really constitutes infidelity? If somebody is in a chat room, for example, but they're not involved physically, in physical intimacy with somebody else, does that constitute an affair or infidelity? If somebody is is sexting someone else, but there's not an emotional connection. Does that constitute infidelity, given that there's not any kind of physical connection? So there are a lot of questions about this, and I think that when we have this discussion online, that'll be a primary thing that we'll talk about. What do we mean by online infidelity? So we have three sources for the class that you'll be for this next week, and of course then that'll be for the discussion the following week. One is another chapter from Hertlein and Blummer, and in this chapter they talk about a number of dynamics that are kind of related to this: jealousy, accountability, cybersex, but they also talk about specifically online infidelity. And I'd like you to read the whole chapter, but I'd like you to pay particular attention to the section dealing with online infidelity. Also have a blog post from Psychology Today by somebody named Aaron Ben-Zeev, and he asked the question, is chatting cheating? Good question. And he has a particular perspective on that that really is intended to kind of help get our thought processes moving on that. And then finally, I have a brief video, was a news piece that is coming out of the Ashley Madison scandal. You probably remember the Ashley Madison scandal that broke a couple of months ago, where the website that really is Ashley Madison, that really encourages infidelity, was hacked, and millions of people's names were released to the public. And it talks a bit about that, but it talks about, how did this happen? There's a tech guy on there that talks about how this happens and what are the risks to anybody really, with the technological risks as well as other risks that are related specifically to the Ashley Madison scandal. So those are the pieces that you'll have for this week. Read them, watch the video, so that you'll be prepared for our discussion that will take place the following week. I'll see you online.